This is Relf Fogg, and he's running for assessor.
I am.
Now, Relf, you've been an assessor in the past.
Yeah.
You're currently serving on the Conservation Commission.
I am, yeah. An appointed position, not elected.
But you'd like to get back on the Board of Assessors.
I'd love to.
And a lot of people know you, but for the folks that don't, maybe some newcomers and stuff, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Sitting on the Board of Assessors in the past, I understand pretty much what our duties are, is to make sure that everybody in town is fairly and equitably taxed. I've watched town processes for over 30 years, and I've been speaking to those issues for almost as long. I bore myself as I bore everybody else, and I'm ready to bore again.
Well, no, I think that my experience of watching your meetings is that you're passionate about the town and the town government, and you want to make a contribution.
Yes, I do.
And this is one way that you could do that.
It is.
And can you tell me a little bit about, some of your assessing board experiences in the past? I mean, you get a lot of people coming in for maybe abatements and things like that, and there is a process. So maybe you could just let us know a little bit about how does that work?
Well, I can tell you, trying to be fair and equitable to everybody hasn't always been fruitful. Taking a position that somebody would be asking for an exemption or can reconsider the denial of an exemption, me thinking, well, I really embrace what your purpose is and your goals and stuff. If I was to vote to allow you this exemption, it would smack of favoritism to me. So things get dragged into board and land tax appeals and stuff like that. You express that to the board of land and tax appeals, and they say, well, you were wrong. By trying to be good to everybody, you ignored this petitioner's point. So that experience told me that you think you're doing the right thing, you're not the final authority, and you can't believe that you go about business as the final authority. You have to be open to listening to every argument, every presentation. It's just I was surprised when the Board of Land and Tax Appeals ruled against the Board of Assessors at the time, but I'm pretty sure I understand what they were telling us. We have to take into consideration hardship. I think I kind of believe that hardship was overblown or exaggerated, and luckily there was a neutral board as the BTLA, and they found in favor of the petitioner. So it's all good, but it's an experience for sure.
Well, and it's not really an exact science, but it's also, you have some specific criteria that you have to abide by as an assessing board. I mean, what I'm getting at is, just because someone's a friend of yours doesn't mean they get a tax abatement or any different treatment than anyone else. Would that be true?
That is true, and this year, next year, every year, it's not supposed to change. Your approach is always supposed to be fair and equitable in each instance. Not fair and equitable this year, but maybe next year I can give you a break.
So,
but I wouldn't give you a break.
We just had I realize that you can't take a position like a general position, but we just had a reevaluation, and a lot of people, especially around the lakes, and it's based on criteria that the assessing firm uses. Would you say that? Would you recommend that? If people feel like they possibly are overassessed, to go through the abatement process and come before the board?
Sure. If you feel as though you've been wronged, you need to petition for yourself. The reval that we just had it's always based on comparative sales. And here in Wakefield we have the luxury of a lot of properties. People want to move to Wakefield. They're willing to pay $100,000 more for a shoreline property that drives up the valuation of everything else in the neighborhood. So it's the market always bears the true value of property in any town, but Wakefield, I think that our assessed values have always been within the legal range, and fairly accurate. But in the last 5-6 years, properties have been hot. Those sales are what legitimizes a higher assessed value on a place that's been in a person's holdings for decades or generations. The market will always direct the values. So if the bottom falls out 2, 3, 4 years from now, and property values should diminish because of polluted water or whatever, if certain conditions deteriorate, those values drop, and I can't stress enough how important it is to control. If you want to control your tax rate or your tax base, you need to control your spending. It's ridiculous to think that town departments, school departments, stuff like that can just keep spending and tax rates won't go up. I've always had that position. The only way to control taxation is to control spending.
And we've heard a lot about the fact that we have one of the lowest tax rates in the state, and people are saying that, and it's a fact. But I know one thing that you've mentioned to me in the past is that it really is everyone's duty to make sure that their tax card is accurate.
Oh yeah.
And how would they do that? They go down to the town hall, they get a free copy of it.
They do.
And if the measurements are wrong, or this at all comes into it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I used to be a character that would think about Mutt and Jeff, and the revenues coming around. You grab the shotgun, you keep the revenues off your property. Back in 2004, 2005, I had an experience where our same assessing firm was out on my property in North Wakefield. I was working there, and I was having a good day. I invited the guy in, and he could see that I did not have 6 fireplaces like my tax card said. I had 1. Instances like that, instances where the taxpayer allows the assessing firm to come in and actually put eyes on what you have, it will save you some tax. Not in every case, not in every situation, but in my experience, it has saved money. While I was on the Board of Assessors, we went down to a friend of mine's place in Union, and he recognized me, he let us in, and we were sitting there chatting when the guy from the state came back down. He says, "You know what? We've been charging you for 2 bedrooms upstairs finished, and I just went up there, and it's all bare walls, no insulation, no sheetrock, it's unfinished. So you're going to save some money on your tax bill." And the old buzzard, he's patting me on the back, telling us to come back anytime. Maybe we'd find some other discrepancies. It doesn't hurt to let the assessing firm come in and see what you got.
So
it just makes it more accurate.
Yeah, and I think what you just said is that it doesn't necessarily help you to not let people in.
Right.
And in a lot of instances, it actually can be more accurately assessed.
That's true.
And could save you some money on your tax.
Yeah.
Now, the other thing I want to just have you tell us about a little bit. Some people might think that we're just pulling numbers out of the air for assessments and whatnot, but doesn't the state of New Hampshire actually come down and do an audit every so many years, and we have to be within a certain percentage, leeway one way or the other?
Yeah.
And it seems to me that the last time they were here, they gave us a glowing...
We've been accurate. The worst days that we had in the history that I'm aware of was 86, 87, 88. When we were so far off our values, we were like 20, 30% of our actual values. Mm-hmm. And when we had the reval done, it brought things back, but all of a sudden our tax rate was around $33 a thousand. Because 30 years ago, our values were, what would be a $250,000 home now is probably valued at 140 back then, 150 back then. Mm-hmm. It's pretty interesting, but we are checked by the DRA. And we have to do the evaluation reports every year. We do a cyclical thing. 20% of the tax base is done every year, and we do quite often come in within those allowances, between 95 and 105%, and we're usually right around 99%. So that has not been my doing. The assessing firm that we've hired, I think, does a great job. And I give them all the credit. Our assessing technician, she does a good job of making sure that all of the necessary paperwork is in front of the state, after our assessing firm presents it to her.
Well, Ralph, we're out of time.
Good.
But I appreciate you coming in and helping us with some of this information that I think a lot of people might not even know.
It's interesting. The way the town works is it's the more you look, the more you know.
Yeah. Good luck on election day.
Bliss.